welcome to Pour Painting with Ron. I hope you've been really well since the last time we saw each other. Well, if you remember, if you've been following my videos, I've been doing a couple of Dutch pours over the last couple of weeks, and I'm going to be doing another one today. Yeah, but I promise you it's the last one for a little while. I just had this one idea in my brain that I wanted to do before I go on to something else again. Well, today I'm going to see if I can do something I saw someone else do on YouTube. I think it was Molly's Artistry channel. She did a lovely Dutch pour using black as a background and then some flames on the top. We're using red, orange and white. So I thought I'd give that a go today. Well, today I'm going to be using all Amsterdam paints, and I'm just thinning them out with water. Now be careful when you use water and paint together. If you're not using a really good quality paint and you add too much water, your paint is going to split when you use it and you'll get all sorts of cracks and horrible things happening as the painting dries. But Amsterdam paints are pretty good, and you can mix in quite a bit of water before they start doing bizarre things when you use them. At least I hope so anyway. Well, the base today I'm going to be using black, as I said. This is their oxide black. I mixed up about 300 grams of paint, and I think I ended up using a similar amount of water thereabouts. So I just kept adding it until I got the consistency that I wanted, and I'll show you that in a little bit. And then on the top I'm using their, what's this one, Azo orange, their Naphthol deep red, and a little bit of titanium white. Now if you don't have much money, you can buy tubes of paint like these ones here. They're cheaper to buy, but if it's a colour you're going to use a lot, even though it's a lot of money to spend up front, getting the bigger containers ends up cheaper overall in the end. You get a lot more for your money if you buy a bigger bottle of paint with the Amsterdam. Alright, and as I said, I'm just using water to thin it out, so not Floetrol or anything that I use when I use the Montmartre paints. Well, oh yeah, and the canvas I'm using today, I usually say this bit here, so I may as well say it again today. I'm using this 60 centimetre by 60 centimetre thin edge canvas. I find the big canvases I find easier to use for Dutch pours than the itsy bitsy little ones. And as usual, I've taped the back off with some painter's tape and used some giant push pins to raise it off the surface of the table. Now my canvas was a little bit loose. Now usually I just spray it with a bit of water and blow dry it, and that's good enough, but it was a little bit too loose today, so I just had to use the stretcher bars in the corners just to stretch out the canvas a little bit more so it's nice and tight. Okay, let's get started. Righto, here we are. Space is at a bit of a premium today because I've got another painting drying beside me. So I've only got this little bit of desk space for this huge canvas. But hopefully you can see that okay today. Anyway, I'll show you the consistency of my paints. I've kept them the same. You can see they're not water thin, but if I pour it off the end of my spoon, I don't get a mound of paint showing. And if I do a twirly shape, I don't get a mound of paint either. So you don't want it water thin, but you do want it pretty thin so you can blow it around with your blow dryer. See the colours as well. Perhaps the colours are a little bit thicker than the black, but they don't leave a mound when I pour them off the end of the stick. So we'll see. I always have a bit of trouble with my consistency. Sometimes it's too thin, sometimes it's too thick, but usually it ends up okay in the end. All right, the first part is the messy part, covering the background with the paint. Now, there's lots of ways you can spread it around. You can use a spatula to spread it around, or a blow dryer to blow it over your canvas, or you can tilt it. Now, I'm just using one colour, so I might just tilt the paint around today on the canvas. Now, I hope I've mixed up enough. We'll soon find out. You can see it's pretty thin. I won't scrape out the bottom because sometimes there's a few thicker bits stuck at the bottom and then you get lumps on your canvas. Your black's messy, yes. I mean, everything turns black in my studio. And if you don't wear gloves, you get lovely black fingernails. I might just spread it out a bit with the spatula and then I'll tilt it around. I think I've just got enough. Now, you don't want too much on the canvas, but because you're not tilting when you've done your painting, you can't really get rid of the excess. And I think I've got just enough today. Don't worry if your painting is a bit bumpy when you've done it, because the paint is so thin, it's going to level out as it dries anyway. So don't be too fussy about a bumpy or uneven finished painting, as long as your canvas is covered. Ooh, heaps of air bubbles, but I'll give it a torch once I've tilted it. You can see nice and fluid. I don't know if the edges are getting covered enough, but I can use just a finger with paint on it to paint the edges and the corners once I've done spreading it out. Sorry you can't see this bit. You can use your imagination in what I'm doing here. It's nothing exciting you really want to see anyway. As you can see, I'm not tipping too much off. I'm just evening it up a bit. Yeah, I think we're good. Now, I'll just, oh yes, not covered the edges. So I just pick up a bit off that I've tipped off and just go around and dab the edges. This side as well. Like so. And I'm usually pretty tidy with the edges. And oh, the back's just about covered. The corners, easy to see with black what's covered and not covered. If you've got white, it's a little bit harder. So canvas is the same colour, but I think we're good. Now I'll just go and wash the ears and my palette knife, and then I'll be back and we'll torch and do the colours on the front. Okay, we're back. Nice clean gloves again. I'll just torch the surface. You don't want to cook it, but just get rid of the air bubbles. All right, now I do want to do like a circle of flame with some black in the middle. That's the plan anyway. I'll put red on first, then orange, and then I'll do the white. This is always the really scary bit. Like so, and then I'll do one down that way. I think I use 40 grams of paint and about 40 grams of water, which I think is just enough. And I'll put some orange on. Now, I'm not going to put a huge amount of white on. Just a little bit. So that should be enough. We'll soon find out. Now I'll just give a bit of a torch again. Just the colours, get rid of the bubbles. Alright, now I'll get my trusty blow dryer. Now I will use the low setting. Sometimes I have to use the high setting if my paint's too thick or I don't have quite enough paint, but this is the blow dryer with one of these little skinny ends on the end. I'll use the cool button, the lowest heat setting and the lowest fan setting. So let's see, it's always a bit scary. Do it on the table. That's better. Okay, how are we looking? I really did want to go over the edges, so I might put just a little bit more paint there and blow it out over the edges. A little bit of white. Okay. Okay. Now I will just use my mouth to tidy up these edges. Make sure I don't pass out. That looks better. Down this end anyway. Okay, cool. Now rather than trying to stand on that side, I'll just turn my canvas around. And do this side. be a bit more delicate with your mouth. I did get a little bit of pink, but not too much. All right, now I do want to feather this inside a little bit. So I will get a straw and just feather the inside part. Okay, that'll do that. Now I'll give it a bit of a torch. We'll see if anything else happens. Okay, cool. Now, not quite what I was expecting, but interesting nevertheless. Anyway, I'll just go around with my palette knife and clean off the edges, and then I'll bring you in for a closer look. So here's the painting. Hopefully you can see that. Certainly a little bit more wild looking than I was going for. But the overall effect is interesting. And we've got some interesting patterns happening in here. So, what did you think of that one? I must admit I'm not 100% in love with this one, but I had a go. and I think it turned out okay, but I can do better. So there's a few things I'll probably try next time. Maybe the colour's a little bit thinner consistency, and maybe more colour to make it easier to blow out with the blow dryer, and then I don't need to play around with it as much to get the flame effects happening. But still, interesting painting. Is that a technique that you'd like to have a go at? Have a go. You never know what you'll come up with. Just keep your paints thin enough to blow out with your blow dryer. I think that's the key. And have enough paint on your canvas. Anyway, time for me to clean up now. As usual, if you enjoyed what you saw today, please take a moment to press the like button. And if you'd like to see more of my content, please take a moment to subscribe. Well, I hope you have a great week ahead, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. In the meantime, happy painting.